Hare Krishna. Omajnanatimandasya Snanslaka Sakshan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskachai Desatani Srila Prabhupada Ki. So yesterday we started reading from the 21st chapter. Bali Maharaj arrested by the Lord, and we were going to read text 26, and that's exactly the text where or the verse that describes how Bali Maharaj is arrested. Before we go into it, there's a question on the screen. Vamandev took everything from Bali Maharaj. Nevertheless, Bali Maharaj retained something extremely valuable. What was that, and what is the value? So what's the point here? He retained something. He kept something which he did not give away. It's something subtle. That's a hint. But try to find out what he kept. And we will discuss that after the pause, after the end of this chapter, because we will also look at chapter 20, the 22nd chapter, that where Bali Maharaj surrenders his life. So text 26. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ata taksya suto yatva virat prabhu vikir shitam babanda varunai pasher balim sutye hanikata. That Taksya Sutta, that the son of Taksha, is Garuda, that he is the king of the birds, the Virat, king of the birds. Prabhu Vikirshitam, by the desire of Lord Vishnu. He understood the desire of Lord Vishnu. That so Pasai, by the ropes, that yes, translation, thereafter on the day of Somapana, after the sacrifice was finished, Garuda, king of the birds, understanding the desire of his master, arrested Maharaj Bali with the ropes of Varuna. Garuda, the constant companion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knows the confidential part of the Lord's desire. Bali Maharaj's tolerance and devotion were undoubtedly super excellent. Garuda arrested Bali Maharaj to show the entire universe the greatness of the king's tolerance. That, chapter. Text. So now, Vamandev, of course, is going to test Bali Maharaj. He has taken everything from him, defeated his soldiers, and bound him up. You see it in the picture on the screen. Bound up with the ropes of Varuna, so he's being insulted and has been cursed by his guru. But actually, what we will see are his exalted qualities coming out. Bali Maharaj will be tested by Vamandev, but he will pass the test with flying colors. So now we also see that now everyone is on the side of Bali Maharaj. The demigods and the demons, none of them were happy that Bali Maharaj was bound. Text 27. When Bali Maharaj was thus arrested by Lord Vishnu, who is the most powerful, there was a great roar of lamentation in all directions throughout the upper and lower planetary systems of the universe. 28. O King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamandev, then spoke to Bali Maharaj, the most liberal and celebrated personality, whom he had arrested with the ropes of Varuna. Bali Maharaj had lost all bodily luster, but he was nonetheless fixed in his determination. So that is the one quality he had. He's fixed in his determination. That he was fixed in his determination in devotional service. Imagine, everyone is against you. Your friends, your guru, even the Lord, everyone is giving you a hard time. And the Supreme Lord himself. Imagine in what a position he is here. He's going to react toward all of this. How he's going to react toward all of this. We will read the purport of 28. When we is bereft of all his possession, he is solely reduced in bodily luster. But although Bali Maharaj had lost everything, he was fixed in his determination to satisfy Vamandev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, such a person is called Sthita Prajna. A pure devotee is never deviated from the service of the Lord, despite all difficulties and impediments offered by the illusory energy. Generally, men who have wealth and opulence are famous, but Bali Maharaj became famous for all time by being deprived of all his possessions. This is the special mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead toward his devotees. The Lord says, Yasyam Anugrina Miyarishita Danam Sanai. As the first installment of his special favor, the Lord takes away all his possessions of his devotee. The devotee, however, is never disturbed by such a loss. He continues his service, and the Lord amply rewards him beyond the expectations of any common man. So one thing Bali Maharaj did not lose. It is his determination. We should keep our determination, whatever happens, to satisfy the Lord. That good or bad situations, we should keep our determination to satisfy the Lord. This happens millions of years ago, and we are still remembering him. Papa said that I had 40 rupees, and now I have 40 crores. I had 5 children, now I have 5,000 children. I had 1 house, now I have temples all over the world, but I'm cursed. I cannot stay in any place more than 3 times. Interesting. I have here a purport of and a verse of the 7th of the 2nd canto, chapter 7, verse 18, 2:7:18, which speaks which also refers to Bali Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj will put on his head the water washed from the lotus feet of the Lord, did not think of anything besides his promise, in spite of being forbidden by spiritual master. The king dedicated to his own personal body to fulfill the measurements of the Lord's 3rd step. For such a personality, even the kingdom of heaven, which he conquered by strength, was of no value. So Srila Prabhupada, in the following purport, he will explain that if the Lord takes everything away, then it is a special favor. So from this purport of 2:7:18, I will read 2 sentences which are very important. The first is, in other words, when the Lord snatches away one's hard-earned material possessions and favors one with his personal transcendental service for eternal life, bliss, and knowledge, such taking away by the Lord should be considered a special favor upon such a devotee. So that's the first point, that when the Lord takes everything away from you, then you should be happy. You got the mercy of the Lord. Do we think like that? Then further in this purport, therefore, the more one spiritually advances by devotional service to the Lord, in exchange for his temporary possessions, the more one is freed from the attachment of material illusion. That's a big sentence. The more one spiritually advances by devotional service to the Lord, in exchange for his temporary possessions, the more one is freed from attachment of material illusion. That something we should not forget, that so the more one gives to Krishna, the more one becomes free from attachment. That so should decide to give everything to Krishna, like Bali Maharaj. Of course, we cannot do that immediately, but that's the example we get here. That we are nearing the 10th canto. To understand the 10th canto, it is said one must be liberated, free from attachment. So the 8th canto is preparing us for that. Verse 29. O King of the demons, you have promised to give me 3 steps of land. I have occupied the entire universe with 2 steps. Now think about where I should put my 3rd. So Sukacharya had warned him for that. Where will you allow him to put his 3rd step? But what Sukacharya did not know is that the Lord will give Bali Maharaj the intelligence to do the right thing. So, 30. As far as the moon shine, as far as the sun and moon shine with the stars, and as far as the clouds pour rain, all the land throughout the universe is in your possession. Of these possessions, with one step I've occupied Burloka, and with my body I've occupied the entire sky and all directions. And in your presence, with my second step, I've occupied the upper planetary systems. Because you have been unable to give charity according to your promise, the rule is that you should go down to live in the hellish planets. Therefore, in according with the order of Sukracharya, your spiritual master, now go down and live there. So, Vamandev gives two reasons why you should go down. First, it is the rule of the universe, if you break a promise, you go to hell. And the second, it was the order of Sukracharya. But of course, in the next chapter, we will hear a little more about that going to hell. What is that exactly? That Vamandev is speaking about. That we read the purport of 32. Narayana parasarve nakutachana bibhyatis varavavarga narakas aptulyartha dakshina. Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly plans, liberation, and the hellish plans are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. A devotee engaged in the service of Narayan is always in equilibrium. The devotee actually lives transcendentally. Although he may appear to have gone to hell or heaven, he does not live in either place. Rather, he always lives in Vaikuntha. Sakanam samatichetam brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That Vamandev asked Pali Maharaj to go to the hellish planets, apparently just to show the entire universe how tolerant he was. And Pali Maharaj did not hesitate to carry out the order. A devotee does not live alone. Of course, everyone lives with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but because a devotee is engaged in his service, he actually does not live in any material condition. Bhaktivedanta Thakur says, Kita janmahai chatatu yadas. Thus he prays to take birth as an insignificant insect in the association of devotees, because devotees are engaged in the service of the Lord. Anyone who lives with them also lives in Vaikuntha. So, text 33, far from being elevated to the heavenly planets or fulfilling one's own desire, one does not properly give a beggar, one who does not properly give a beggar what he has promised falls down to the hellish conditions of life. 34, being falsely proud of your possessions, you promised to give me land, but you could not fulfill your promise. Therefore, because your promise was false, you must live for a few years in hellish life. Purport. So 4 lines down the purport, it said, Bali Maharaj was undoubtedly the most exalted devotee, whereas previously he had maintained a misunderstanding due to false prestige. He maintained a misunderstanding due to false prestige. What was that misunderstanding? That misunderstanding was, the universe belongs to me. Pali Maharaj was thinking. That was his misunderstanding. So by the supreme will of the Lord, he now had to go to the hellish planets, because he went there by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and now it comes. He lived there more opulently than one could expect to live in the planets of heaven. More opulent than heaven. It's a better place. Going to hell is a better place for Bali Maharaj. That's interesting. The devotee always lived with the Supreme Personality of God, engaged in his service, and therefore is always transcendental to hellish and heavenly residences. Now, this was the chapter 21, and now we go to chapter 22. Chapter 22, we have also a question that there's 3 reasons why the Lord's awarding Bala Maharaj the Sutal planet was a great benediction. 3 reasons that we will hear these reasons. Very interesting. Okay. Text. Then we have text. I will read text 1 and 2. The next chapter, Bali Maharaj surrenders his life. So Sukadev Goswami said, okay, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead was superficially seen to have acted mischievously toward Bali Maharaj was fixed in his determination. Considering himself not to have fulfilled his promise, he spoke as follows. Bali Maharaj said, O best personality of Godhead, most worshipable for all the demigods, if you think that my promise has become false, I shall certainly rectify matters to make it truthful. I cannot allow my promise to be false. Please therefore place your 3rd lotus footstep on my head. So now Bali Maharaj has surrendered everything, and by surrendering everything, he has become a Marjan, one of the 12 Marjan. This is what made him a Marjan, rejecting his false school and surrendering everything. So we will read parts of the purport. So Bali Maharaj could understand the pretense of Lord Vamandev by taking the side of the demigods and come before him as a beggar. Although the Lord's purpose was to cheat him, Bali Maharaj took pleasure in understanding how the Lord will cheat his devotee to glorify the devotee's position. So Bali Maharaj knew what was behind it, what was behind this cheating. Actually, it was to glorify Bali Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj took pleasure that the Lord was cheating him. Whatever relationship you have with the Lord is wonderful. Whether he comes to cheat you or to punish you, he's also always merciful to you. But further the purport, it is said that God is good, and that is a fact. Whether he cheats or rewards, he is always good. So Bali Maharaj therefore addressed him as Uttama Sloka. Your Lordship, he said, you are always praised. You are always praised with the best selected verses, Uttama Sloka. Yeah. On behalf of the demigods, you disguised yourself to cheat me, saying that you wanted only 3 paces of land, but later you expanded your body to such an extent that with 2 footsteps you covered the entire universe, because you were working on behalf of your devotees. You do not regard this as cheating. Never mind, I cannot be considered a devotee. Interesting. That Srila Prabhupada in the purport reveals the inner heart of Bali Maharaj. That's important. His humility. So he's saying here, yes, you are helping Indra. I'm not your devotee. Bali Maharaj will later say in a verse that to the Lord, You are favoring the demons more than the devotees, taking away everything and taking away our false pride. Your mercy to us is greater than that you give to the demigods. That's also an interesting point. The Lord is more merciful to the demons. We will come back to that later. There were a few other devotees who were thinking like that. Nonetheless, because although you are the husband of the goddess of fortune, you have come to me to beg. I must satisfy you to the best of my ability, so please do not think that I want to cheat you. I must fulfill my promise. I still have my body. When I place my body for your satisfaction, please put your third step on my head. Since the Lord had covered the entire universe with 2 steps, one may ask how Bali Maharaj could be sufficient for his third step. And out comes the answer. How Bali Maharaj was thinking. And that's the intelligence given to him by Lord Vamandev. So says Bali Maharaj, however, thought that the possessor of wealth must be greater than the possession. So he was thinking himself the possessor of all the wealth. And think the possessor must be greater than the wealth. So I give him also the possessor. Therefore, although the Lord has taken all these possessions, the head of Bali Maharaj, the possessor, would provide an adequate place for the Lord's third step. So that's an important point Srila Prabhupada makes here. That why did he offer his third step, his head for the third step of the Lord? Is explained here. You have to answer that question for your exam. It's a good point. Important to remember. Remember that Shukracharya warned him, you won't have a place for your third step. But Srila Prabhupada explains that Krishna gives the devotee intelligence. Bali Maharaj is a Kshatriya and he must fulfill his vows. So he was fixed in his determination. We also need determination to fulfill our promise. We will follow the 4 regulative principles and chant 16 rounds. What does that mean? That even if Krishna cheats, it is good. If he comes to punish you, it is good. What does it mean? Bhaktivedanta Thakur surrendered his body, his mind, his family, home, and he said that he would live as a servant for all these properties of Krishna. So, in the Krishna book, the greatest of all surrender was the gopis, who risked social ruin and the dangers of the forest at night. I will read an excerpt from the letter of Srila Prabhupada, a letter written by Srila Prabhupada. Surrender to the Guru is unconditional. My Guru Maharaj gave me a task, although I was discouraged by my godbrothers. I did not forget him for a moment. I was determined to follow my duty. Yeah, of course. In Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Krishna says, Yeya tamam papachanti tamstate prajanam. I reward someone according to one's surrender. And 15:5, Krishna says, one who knows how to surrender, he attains the eternal kingdom. Surrender means rise early, take a bath, go to Mangalarti, even if you lack spontaneous love to do so. Srila Prabhupada said, surrender means to follow the rules, even the small ones. So Sarvabhauma describes Lord Chaitanya, that Lord Chaitanya came to teach renunciation, knowledge of himself, and the signs of surrender, Bhakti Yoga. Chanting Hare Krishna is surrendering, is surrender. Surrender the speaking, the hearing, the mind, in Jahya, in the holy name. We should avoid the offenses in chanting the holy name and dedicate our lives to the instructions of the spiritual master. Surrender is not whimsical, but authorized and scientific. If we practice, then we will learn how to surrender. The devotee engaged in a life surrender to Krishna has many things to do and does not waste a moment. Its goal is to completely surrender to Krishna so that he can get rid of all material desires and serve Krishna more and more, and follow in the footsteps as the servant of the servant of the servant, the lover of the gopis. So text 3 is very similar to the verse he said before, that text 3, that I do not fear being deprived of all my possessions, living in a hellish life, being arrested for poverty by the ropes of Varuna, or being punished by you as much as I fear defamation. So fame. Bali Maharaj says that he does not want to think that people that I'm a cheater myself. So the purpose of text 3, that although Bali Maharaj fully surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could not tolerate being defamed for cheating a Brahman Brahmachari. Being quite alert in regard to his reputation, he thought deeply about how to prevent being defamed. The Lord, therefore, gave him the good counsel to prevent defamation by offering his head. A Vaishnava does not fear any punishment. Narayana prasavena kutachanam pripyati. Again, this verse. Now we hear Bali Maharaj speaking from his heart. Text 4. Although a father, mother, brother, or friend may sometimes punish one as a well-wisher, they never punish their subordinate like this. But because you are the most worshipful Lord, I regard the punishment you have given me as most exalted. The purpose. Punishment meted out by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is accepted by the Lord as the greatest mercy. Tatena kapam susamekshano bunjat maivad kitam vipakam ritvakvapurvir vidada namaste chivetya muktipade sadayabhat. We will hear this verse a few times in the purport, in this chapter. So one who seeks your compassion and thus tolerates all kinds of adverse conditions due to karma of his past deeds, and will always engage in your devotion service with his mind, words, and body, and will always offer obeisance to you, is certainly a bona fide candidate for liberation. A devotee knows that so-called punishment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is only his favor to correct his devotee and bring him to the right path. Therefore, the punishment awarded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be compared to even the greatest benefit awarded by one's material father, mother, brother, or friend. So then it was text 4. Punishment meted out by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is accepted by the devotee as the greatest mercy. So Bali Maharaj is seeing punishment as mercy. It's a great test that Maitreya Rishi once asked Srila Prabhupada Is it true, Srila Prabhupada, that Krishna is testing us every day? So that we have tests. Do we have tests every day? I see Mother Hema Gopi writes a question: can you please help me understand how hellish punishment for punishment have more sense and more enjoyment than heaven? Please be patient. We will hear that in this chapter. That comes, text 32 till 36. We will hear that. There it will be explained what the particular situation is here. So back to this question of Maitreya Rishi to Srila Prabhupada. Is it true, Srila Prabhupada, that Krishna is testing us every day, that we have tests? Srila Prabhupada replied, if you want a responsible post, then there's a question of tests. If you want to be a vagabond or a hippie or do nothing, then there's a question of test. So if you are tested by Krishna, then you are prepared to take some important position in this movement or for Krishna. That is the meaning of test, Srila Prabhupada says. Then Maitreya Rishi replied, but for devotees, Srila Prabhupada said, yes, for devotees there is test. We see from the life of Prahlad Maharaj how many severe tests, Bali Maharaj and Narada Muni. And Maitreya Rishi replies, and the more advanced the devotee, the more severe the test. Srila Prabhupada said, no. After you pass the examination, there are no more tests. But before coming to the post of a recognized devotee, Krishna tests very severely. Then, this is from a morning walk in Tehran in 1976. Maitreya Rishi, is it true, Srila Prabhupada, that Krishna is testing us every day? We are having test opportunities? Prabhupada said, no. Just like if you want a responsible post, then there's question of test. Let's see, it's the same point here. That I have 2 times this conversation in my text, but further that this Harisari is replying. I read once in the Bhagavatam in one of your purports, you said that Maya is there to test the sincerity of the candidate. Prabhupada replied, yes, we see from the life of Bali Maharaj how he was put into difficulty. Even his spiritual master cursed him, but put into test, and still he remains in his determination, that he retains his determination, and then he passed. That is very natural. And there is a word, acid test, and Harisari replies, yes. Prabhupada replies, for ascertaining real gold, the acid test is one has to pass to become real gold. Navayavan replied, he says, this test depends on one's faith in Krishna. Prabhupada said, faith in Krishna, what do you mean by faith? Harisari replied, if you want to pass the test, he says, does that depends on one's faith? Prabhupada said, replied, what does faith mean? Atreya Rishi said, conviction. Prabhupada replied, what is that conviction? Describe it. Atreya Rishi said that Krishna is the controller. Prabhupada said, Krishna is controller. You may have faith or not faith, that doesn't matter. Very sorry. If one is convinced that Krishna will always protect him, Navajavan, when he's convinced to abide by the instructions of, then Prabhupada intervenes, he said, faith means that you are meant for giving some service to Krishna. You should stick to that service, the path, in spite of your impediments. That is passing the test. Generally, just like we are meant for preaching Krishna consciousness. So there may be severe tests, but still we shall remain determined. That is wanted. There may be so many impediments, punishments, still you should do that. That is wanted, that is test. Not as soon as there is some difficulty, I will give up. There may be severe tests, but still we have not to give up. We must go on, that is determination. Navajavan, passing the test means executing the order of the spiritual master. Prabhupada said, yes, that is spiritual life. One has to take the order from the spiritual master and execute it despite all impediments. That is determination. Faith, Srila Prabhupada explains, is to stick to your service despite all impediments. That is how you pass the test. You have a service and you stick to it. We do not say that it is too difficult. I do something else. So this is the test. Arjuna passed the test. Arjuna's son Abhimanyu was killed on the battlefield and Arjuna was lamenting. An Indian man said to Srila Prabhupada, I think Arjuna was not a pure devotee. After his son died, he was lamenting. How is a pure devotee? No, it is natural. You will lament for your son's death. But simply because his son died, he did not stop his service. He continued to battle and fought for victory. He did not give up his service because his son died. That shows that he is a pure devotee. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj on 23rd of December 1936 in his last speech to the Gaudiya Math said, living in this world, one has to face many kinds of difficulties. It is not our job to try to remove these difficulties, nor should they depress us. We have no attachment or hostility to anyone in this world. All arrangements in this world are temporary. Everyone has an indispensable need for the absolute truth. May all of you, with one goal and in harmony with each other, attain the right to serve the original Asraya Vigraha. It is similar to Srila Prabhupada's words. Your love for me will be shown by how you cooperate to push forward this movement. Now we will read text 5. Since your lordship is indirectly the greatest well-wisher of us demons, that you act for our best welfare by posing us as our enemy. Because demons like us always aspire for a position of false prestige. By chastising us, you give us the eyes by which to see the right path. Read the purport that Bali Maharaj considered the Supreme Personality of Godhead a better friend to the demons than to the demigods. Here you have it. That in the material world, the more one gets material positions, the more he becomes blind in spiritual life. The demigods and devotees of the Lord, for the sake of material positions, but also the demons apparently do not have the Supreme Personality of Godhead on their side. he always acts as their well-wisher by depriving them from their positions of false prestige. By false prestige, one is misguided. So the Supreme Lord takes away their position of false prestige as a special favor. So we may remember Vitrasur reminding Indra of his heinous activities. Vitrasur said, if one is a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, and depends on Vishnu in every respect, then victory, opulence, and peace of mind are all inevitably available. So Vitrasur was such a great devotee, although he was a demon. Although he was in a demon body, he was a devotee. The Lord gave him the remembrance of his past devotion. So even demons can become devotees. And we are lucky about that, because most of us were born in demoniac families. And we had no knowledge of all these things. 6, 7. Many demons who were continuously inimical toward you finally achieved the perfection of the great mystic yogis. Your Lordship can perform one work to serve many purposes, and consequently, although you have punished me in many ways, I do not feel ashamed of having been arrested by the ropes of Varuna, nor do I feel aggrieved. So now he is given examples of demons who got mercy. So demons were killed by Krishna, and they got the same perfection as the mystic yogis. The Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada writes, Bali much appreciated the Lord's mercy, not only upon him, but also other demons. Because this mercy is liberally distributed, the Supreme Lord is all merciful. Bali Maharaj was indeed fully surrendered devotee, but even some demons who were not at all devotees, but merely enemies of the Lord, attained the same exalted position achieved by many mystic yogis. Thus Bali Maharaj could understand that the Lord had some hidden purpose in punishing him. Consequently, he was neither unhappy nor ashamed because of the awkward position in which he had been put by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So who else was put in an awkward position and was not ashamed? We heard about Lord Shiva and Moini Murti, right? And now we hear from Bali Maharaj. Why should one feel ashamed to have been put in an awkward position? Because he likes to appear victorious, right? But now he's being humiliated and being cursed. Before he was a king, now he's tied up and arrested. He lost everything, but instead of being ashamed, he was happy. He was very happy. He accepted everything as Krishna's plan. So this we have to learn from Bali Maharaj, but don't imitate it. Later we will see that he feels ashamed as he did not please the Lord as Prahlad Maharaj had wanted him to do. Actually, he did, but he felt he was not up to his mark. That Bali Maharaj felt like this, but Prahlad Maharaj will say, you have pleased the Lord. We will see that later. I have a cross-reference here from the 5th canto, chapter 24, text 27. Sukadev Goswami continued, that's in the 5th canto. My dear king, how shall I glorify the character of Bali Maharaj? the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of the Three Worlds, who is most compassionate to his own devotee, stands with club in hand at Bali Maharaj's door. When Ravan, the powerful demon, came to gain victory over Bali Maharaj, Vamandev kicked him a distance of 80,000 miles with his big toe. I shall explain the character and activities of Bali Maharaj later. So we will see that Bali Maharaj will go to Sutal and Lord Vamandev will become his doorkeeper. And then Ravan tried to attack Sutal, and he said Vamandev kicked him a distance of 80,000 miles with his big toe. So Vamandev is has a very powerful toe. First he kicked a hole in the universe, and then he kicked Ravan far away. So in verse 8, Bali Maharaj is expressing his heart again. Text 8. My grandfather Prahlad Maharaj is famous, being recognized by all your devotees. Although harassed in many ways by his father Hiranyakasipu, he still remained faithful, taking shelter at your lotus feet. So we read the purport. So a pure devotee like Prahlad Maharaj, although harassed circumstantially, many ways, never gives up the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That gives never up the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to take shelter of anyone else. We see sometimes devotees, they join and they get sick and something happens and they leave and they take shelter of another movement or something. But Bali and Prahlad were not like that. Purport. A pure devotee never complains against the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A vivid example is Prahlad Maharaj. Examining the life of Prahlad Maharaj, we can see how severely he was harassed by his own father Hiranyakasipu. Yet he did not divert his attention from the Lord, even to the smallest extent. Bali Maharaj, following in the footsteps of his grandfather Prahlad Maharaj, remained fixed in his devotion to the Lord, despite the Lord's having punished him. So one who complains is not a pure devotee. You did not get the mercy. If you complain about something in this movement, which is your own problem, then you are not a pure devotee, according to this purport. So do not complain about the mercy. The devotees have misconceptions. Some devotees thought that after initiation, the Guru takes all my karma, then I will not become sick anymore. But no, it is the mercy of the Lord. Text 9. What is the use of the material body, which automatically leaves its owner at the end of life? And what is the use of all one's family members, who are actually plunderers, taking away money that is useful for the service of the Lord in spiritual opulence? What is the use of a wife? She is the only source of increasing material conditions. And what's the use of family, home, country, and community? Attachment for them merely wastes the valuable energy of one's lifetime. We will read a part of the purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna advises Sarvadam Prachya Mahamkam Sharanam Vaja. So we will hear this verse now many times in the purpose of Prabhupada. Give up all varieties of religion, just surrender to me. The common man does not appreciate such a statement by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he thinks that during this lifetime his family, society, country, body, and relatives are everything. Why should one give up any of them and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? But from the behavior of great personalities like Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj, we understand that surrendering to the Lord is the right action for an intelligent person. Prahlad Maharaj took shelter of Vishnu against the will of his father. Similarly, Bali Maharaj took shelter of Vamandev against the will of his spiritual master, Sukracharya, and all the leading demons. So who else took shelter of Vishnu against the will of others? Of course, we have the gopis. And that previously in the 70s, there were mothers of those joining the Hare Krishna movement wanting to commit suicide. Maharaj's father came to India to get him back. Give me my son back, he said to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said, you ask him and he can go with you. Srila Prabhupada said that he was offering him $1 million to come back. Kiraj Maharaj was living so austere in the beginning in Bombay. All was done is a hut, kitchen, prasadam room. Once he was lying under the table with fever. He said, I'm lying under the table because here no one will step over me. And he rejected the $1 million. That is real renunciation. Yeah. So Vibhishan, yes, against the will of Ravan. So Gargamuni and Brahmananda were disowned from their family heritage, but they accepted Srila Prabhupada as their father because their father disowned them. So I will read a few parts of the purport. People may be surprised that devotees like Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj could seek shelter of the sight of the enemy, giving up natural affection for family, herd, and home. In this connection, Bali Maharaj explains that the body, which is the center of all activities, is also a foreign element. So the body, in other words, is not natural for us. It is not normal to have a body, a spirit soul, a material body. So further, even though we want to keep the body fit and helpful for our activities, the body cannot continue eternally. Although I'm the soul which is eternal, after using the body for some time, I have to accept another body. Tata Kyantara Praptir. According to the laws of nature, unless I render some service with the body for advancement of devotional service, that one should not use the body for any other purpose. One should know that if he uses the body for any other purpose, he is simply wasting time. For as soon as the time is ripe, the soul will automatically leave the body. Then further, near to the end, that one's lifetime, one's home, and everything one has, if not properly used in the service of the Lord, are all sources of material conditions or perpetual suffering under the threefold miseries, Adhyatmika, Adibhaudika, Adidevika. Unfortunately, there is no institution in human society for education on this subject. People are kept in darkness about the goal of life, and thus there is continuous struggle for existence. We speak of survival of the fittest, but no one survives, for no one is free from material conditions. So there is a verse from the 10th canto, chapter 14, text 36. My dear Lord Krishna, until people become your devotees, their material attachment and desires remain thieves, their homes remain prisons, and their affectionate feelings for their family members remain food shackles. In the Srila Prabhupada explains that if we are not using our possessions and family in Krishna's service, they will simply be part of the prison. If we use them in Krishna's service, then they will be part of liberation, of getting out of the prison. So we have come to text 10, which we will discuss after the pause. So we will reconvene at 5:15. 5:15. We will reconvene. That in the meantime, that you can think about this question which is on the screen and write your answer that in the chat. So see you soon back, 5:15. Hare Krishna. We resume for our second part today on chapter 22. But first we looked at this question. Vamandev took everything from Bali Maharaj. Nevertheless, Bali Maharaj retained something extremely valuable. What was that, and what was its value? So I think some of you may have difficulty to understand the word retained. So Bali Maharaj gave everything, but he kept something. What did he keep? What did he retain? So if we look at the answers, that Bali Maharaj was still having the proprietor mentality, which was actually an anartha, and the Lord took it away. So he lost it. He did not keep it. So this is not the answer. That then Bali Maharaj was considering his body his own, and he could still render service with the Lord. To temporary body, when used in the service of the Lord, can be spiritualized. Also, he considered how else could we keep up his progress for the third step. For the Lord as possessor is more valuable than the possession. That was his mentality. That's right. So he gave his body, his head, as the third step. He gave it away. He did not retain it. He did not keep it. So this is not the answer. It's all very correct. Imagopi, it's very short. He was fixed in devotional service. It gave him strength to pass all exams. That is describing the answer. But Maharaj Prabhu has it to the point. He said, Vamandev took everything away, but Bali Maharaj could not take his determination, his Tita Prajna determination. He could not take that away. He kept that, his determination. And that's a great lesson for us. Whatever happens, good or bad, continue serving the Supreme Lord and the Spiritual Master. Never give it up. That is what we must keep and not give away. That's to satisfy Lord Vamandev. Shalangi and Mother Anangamoini, they have also the right answer. So we continue now with our our next chapter. We are at text 10 now. We will read text 10. My grandfather, the best of all men who achieved unlimited knowledge and was worshipable for everyone, was afraid of the common man in this world, being fully convinced of the substantiality afforded by shelter at your lotus feet. He took shelter of your lotus feet against the will of his father and demoniac friends who were killed by your own self. So, Sri Prahlad Maharaj, he took shelter of Lord Nrsimhadev against the will of his father and friends. And Bali Maharaj is exactly doing the same thing. So he took shelter of Vaman against the will of his guru and his demoniac friends. Exactly the same thing as he is doing. So that's Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj. Yes. Prahlad Maharaj against the will of his father. Vamandev, he took shelter of Vamandev against the will of Shukracharya and the demons. So in the 5th canto, chapter 24, verses 23-26, we find verses that explain more deeply the mentality of Bali Maharaj. So when the Supreme Personality of Godhead could see no other means of taking everything away from Bali Maharaj, he adopted the trick of begging from him and took away all the 3 worlds. Thus only his body was left. But the Lord was still not satisfied. He arrested Bali Maharaj, bound with the ropes of Aruna, and threw him in a cave in a mountain. Nevertheless, all his poverty was taken away, and he was thrown into a cave. Bali Maharaj was such a great devotee that he spoke as follows. So that is 5:24, next verse. But the mentioning of this cave is interesting. That's a detail that we didn't hear in this pastime. That's not easy to understand. Bali Maharaj will address hereafter Indra and Brihaspati. Bali has just lost heaven and is addressing Indra. So that's from the 5th canto. And then alas, how pitiable is it for Indra, the king of heaven, that although he is very learned and powerful, and although he chose Brihaspati as his prime minister to instruct him, he is completely ignorant concerning spiritual advancement. Brihaspati is also intelligent because he did not properly instruct, is also unintelligent because he did not properly instruct his disciple. Lord Vamandev was standing at Indra's door, but King Indra, instead of begging him for an opportunity to render transcendental loving service, engaged him in asking me for alms to gain the 3 worlds for his son's gratification. So Bali is saying that to Indra that you have the opportunity to offer pure devotional service, but you ask for the universe. So sovereignty over the 3 worlds is very insignificant, because whatever material opulence one may possess lasts only for an age of Manu, which is but a tiny fraction of endless time. So Bali Maharaj said My grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, is the only person who understood his own self-interest. Upon the death of Prahlad Maharaj, Hiranyakashipu, Lord Nrsimhadev, wanted over Prahlad his father's kingdom, and even wanted to grant him liberation from material bondage. But Prahlad accepted neither. Liberation and material opulence, he thought, are obstacles to devotional service. And therefore, such gifts from the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not his actual mercy. Consequently, instead of accepting the results of karma and jnana, Prahlad Maharaj simply begged for the lawful engagement in the service of his servant. Prahlad Maharaj said, persons like us who are still attached to material enjoyment, who are contaminated by the modes of material nature, who lack the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot follow the supreme path of Prahlad Maharaj, the exalted devotee of the Lord. So Bali Maharaj is following, but he feels that something is lacking, as he's not a pure devotee, as his father. He's not giving himself any credit for what he has done. He was extremely humble. He had done such a thing that millions of flowers were showering on him. He's not taking credit at all. Now, how is it that he got the mercy of the Lord? That we'll hear in text 11. The text 10 said, my grandfather, the best of all men, who achieved unlimited knowledge and was useful for everyone, was afraid of common men in this world. So he was the common man in this world, or all those who were surrounding Prahlad Maharaj. They were all sons of demons. Sons of demons and demons. There were no devotees. So he was afraid to associate with materialistic people. That Srila Prabhupada said many times about his disciples, this one problem with my disciples, that they are not afraid of Maya. But we should be afraid of association with non-devotees. But of course, Prahlad is always in bliss. He says that in a verse in the 7th canto, Lord Nrsimhadev. I'm always in bliss, he says, and therefore I'm not afraid of your material energy. That's, he says in one verse. But I feel compassion for all those who are after Maya Sukha, enjoyment in this world. In another verse, he says that I'm very much afraid of the illusory energy. Because I saw just in one moment how my father was finished. 1 second and he was gone. So a pure devotee has this both. Because he's always in blissful Krishna consciousness, Maya cannot touch him. But at the same time, he remains fearful for Maya. Srila Prabhupada was praying for the deities in Vrindavan, in the temple. And the devotee asked Prabhupada, what are you praying for? Srila Prabhupada said, I'm praying for the Lord, to the Lord to please not to let me fall down. That was near the end of his life. His presence with us in his Vapu form. That something we have to learn. Text 11. Only by providence have I been forcibly brought under your lotus feet and deprived of all my opulence, because of the illusion created by the temporary opulence people in general who live under material conditions, facing accidental death at every moment, do not understand that this life is temporary. Only by providence have I been saved from that condition. So, because of the illusion created by temporary opulence, people in general who live under the material conditions face accidental death at every moment. They do not understand that life is temporary. Only by providence I've been saved from that condition. I repeat it twice. It's so important. It's the essence of what illusion is in this world. So, the purpose. Bali Maharaj appreciated the actions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although all the members of the demoniac families except Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj considered Vishnu their eternal traditional enemy. As described by Bali Maharaj, Lord Vishnu was actually not the enemy of the family, but the best friend of the family. That the principle of this friendship has already been stated. And here we have again this verse, which will be repeated by Srila Prabhupada in further verses again. Yasyam anagrinami arishyeta tanam sanai 1088H. The Lord bestows the attraction, the Lord bestows special favor upon his devotee that by taking away all these opulences, Bali Maharaj appreciated this behavior of the Lord. Therefore he said, Daivena Nita Prasabam Jajita Shri. It is to bring me to the right platform of eternal life that you have put me in these circumstances. Actually, everyone should fear the so-called society, friendship, and love for which he works so hard, day and night. So being afraid of all you are working for, being afraid all you are working for in this world, and your friendship, your love, and your society in this world, being afraid of that. As indicated by Bali Maharaj, by the word Jana Bita, every devotee in Krishna consciousness should always be afraid of the common man engaged in pursuing material prosperity. Here Srila Prabhupada, in the purport of text 11, explains why Prahlad Maharaj was afraid of the common man in this world. I repeat it. As indicated by Bali Maharaj by the word Jana Bita, every devotee in Krishna consciousness should always be afraid of the common man in engaging in pursuing material prosperity. That's what I said before. Such a person is described as pramata, a madman, chasing the will of the wisp. Such men do not know that after hard struggle of life, one must change his body. With no certainty what kind of body one will receive in the next life. Those who are completely established in Krishna conscious philosophy and who do not understand the aim of life will never take to the activities of the materialistic dog race. Srila Prabhupada is calling it a dog race. We hear a rat race, but Srila Prabhupada calls it dog race. A race means to find out who comes first. If you want a job, you have to be like a dog with its tails between its legs, begging, please give me a job, give me a job. You worship God or you worship dog. The Prabhupada said that the dog goes on 4 legs and the person goes on 4 wheels. The racing cars to go to work and the dog is running on his 4 legs. You live like a dog and you walk like a dog. He suffers like a dog. But if a sincere devotee somehow does fall down, the Lord corrects him and saves him from gliding to the darkest region of hellish life. Anandro virvita vishatam tamishram punas punasarvata sarvananam. That's, of course, from the 7th canto. The materialistic way of life is nothing but repeated chewing of what has already been chewed. Although there is no profit in such a life, people are enamored of it because of uncontrolled senses. Because of uncontrolled senses, people fully engage in sinful activities by which they get a body full of suffering. Pali Maharaj appreciated how the Lord had saved him from such a bewildered life of ignorance. He therefore said that his intelligence has been stunned. Stapta Maderna Bhuttyate. He could not understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead favors his devotee by forcibly stopping their materialistic activities. On 6/11/23 in the Bhagavatam, Shiva Goswami, he has a commentary. It's the verse, Traivarhikaya Sarvihatam Asmat Patir Vidate Purusasya Sakra Tatonumeyo Bhagavat Prasado Yodo Labokinshnagochanya. Our Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, forbids devotees to endeavor uselessly for religion, economic development, and sense gratification. O Indra, one can thus infer how kind the Lord is. Such mercy is obtainable only by unalloyed devotees, not by persons who aspire for material gains. So Jiva Goswami explains that if an independent-minded devotee strives to attain something material in the three worlds, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally creates obstacles for the devotee to obtain his desires. The word akinchana gochara means that if the devotee strives to obtain material pleasures or non-devotional liberation, then the Lord creates obstacles to stop the devotee. The word akinchana means pure devotee, that has already been explained in Bhakti Sandarbha. So what is an independent devotee? So every devotee in our movement is practically different, so independent. Those who think that we are brainwashed should meet the devotees. That's a comment of Bhujampa. There's a passage in the Nectar of Devotion, chapter 37, illustrating how Bali Maharaj is feeling. The symptom of ecstatic affection with reference felt by Bali Maharaj was expressed as follows. My dear Lord, you have simultaneously punished me and showed me your causeless mercy. My conclusion is that when I have taken shelter of your lotus feet, I shall never be disturbed in any condition of life. Whether you give me the opportunity to enjoy the yogic perfections, or you put me in the most abominable condition of hellish life, I shall never be disturbed. So Krishna himself, after seeing Bali Maharaj, told Uddhav, my dear friend, how can I express the glorious characteristics of Bali Maharaj, the son of Virochan? Although the king of the Suras, the demigods, was cursed by his son Virochan, and although I cheated him in my incarnation as Vaman, taking away his dominions throughout the universe, and although I still criticized him for not fulfilling his promise, I have just now seen in his kingdom, I have just now seen him in his kingdom, and he feelingly expressed his love for me. When such a feeling of love becomes intensified, it's called affection. In the affectional stage, one cannot bear separation from Krishna for a moment. So there is a story of a rich former Muslim disciple of Indradyumna Maharaj from Baku in Azerbaijan. He was in Vrindavan and he prayed to Shri Radha Syama Sundar to take all obstacles away. At his initiation, he said, Allah gave me everything and Krishna took away everything and offered me himself. That looks like what he did with Bali Maharaj also. That. Now we continue reading that text 12, 13, 14. Sukadev Goswami said, O best of the Kaurs, while Bali Maharaj was describing his fortunate position in this way, the most dear devotee of the Lord Prahlad Maharaj appeared there like the moon rising in the nighttime. Then Bali Maharaj saw his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, the most fortunate personality, whose dark body resembled black ointment to the eyes. This tall, elegant figure was dressed in yellow garments. He had long arms and his beautiful eyes were like the petals of a lotus. Being bound by the ropes of Aruna, Bali Maharaj could not offer befitting respect to Prahlad Maharaj as he had before. Rather, he simply offered respectful obeisance with his head, his eyes being inundated with tears and his face lowered in shame. So, you have the purport. Since Bali Maharaj had been arrested by Lord Brahmandev, he was certainly considered an offender. Bali Maharaj seriously felt that he was an offender of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Certainly, Prahlad Maharaj would not like this. Therefore, Bali Maharaj was ashamed and hung his head. After all of this, Bali Maharaj saw himself as an offender. That he lost everything. He's arrested and cursed. Bali Maharaj thinks, I'm the offender. So his pure devotee, grandfather, comes as he's feeling very ashamed. That now, text 15, 16. When the great personality Prahlad Maharaj saw that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Lord, was sitting there, surrounded and worshipped by his intimate associates like Sunanda, he was overwhelmed with tears of jubilation. Approaching the Lord and falling to the ground, he offered obeisance to the Lord with his head. Prahlad Maharaj said, My Lord, it is your Lordship who gave this Bali the very great opulence of the post of Heavenly King. Now today, it's you who have taken it all away. I think you have acted with equal beauty in both ways, because his exalted position as King of Heaven was putting him in the darkness of ignorance. You have done him a very merciful favor by taking away all his opulence. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada again quotes 1088.8. Aditi said, Yasyam anugriname arishye tattanam sanai. It is by the mercy of the Lord that one gets all material opulence. But if such material opulence causes one to become puffed up and forget the process of self-realization, the Lord takes all the opulence away. That if you get something and lose it all, that means you did not use it in a proper way. That the Lord bestows mercy upon his devotee by helping him to find out his constitutional position. For that purpose, the Lord is always ready to help the devotee in every way, but material opulence is sometimes dangerous because it diverts one's attention to false prestige by giving one the impression that he's the owner and master of everything, is so wise, although this is not a fact. To protect the devotee from such misunderstanding, the Lord, showing special mercy, sometimes takes away his material possessions Yasyam Anurina Maria Rishita Tanam Sanai, text 17. Until opulence is so bewildering that it makes even a learned, self-controlled man forget to search for the goal of self-realization. But the personality of God at Narayan, the Lord of the universe, can see everything by his will. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances to him. So Prahlad Maharaj is glorifying the Lord. You gave him everything, and now you take it away. Both actions are beautiful. Second part of the purport of 17. Practically no one is interested in God, one's relationship with God, and how one should act. Modern men have altogether forgotten such questions because they are mad for material possessions. If this kind of civilization continues, the time will soon come when the Supreme Personality of Godhead will take away all the material opulence. Then people come to their senses. That. So Prabhupada said this also in the 5th canto about America. He said that America is so opulent, but the leaders have made a stone boat, and the leaders are going on the stone boat, and everyone follow the leaders on the stone boat. Then the boat will not float on the water, but sink, and everyone will drown. If the Americans listen to the devotees, and they are profoundly serious, then they can prevent this happening to their country. That was Srila Prabhupada's prediction about America. Don't know if it's going on today, that the stone boat, that text 18. Sukadev Goswami continued, "O King Parikshit, Lord Brahma then began to speak to the Supreme Personality of Godhead within the hearing of Prahlad Maharaj, who stood nearby with folded hands. But Bali Maharaj, chaste wife, afraid and grieving at seeing her husband arrested, immediately offered obeisance to Lord Brahmandev. She folded her hands and spoke as follows." So in the purport it said, although Lord Brahma was speaking, he had to stop for a while because Bali Maharaj's wife Vidyavali was very agitated and afraid, and she wanted to say something. That so she's Bali's wife. Vidyavali could not contain herself. Although Brahma was about to speak, she was disturbed in mind to see her beloved husband in that condition. So she interrupted, practically speaking, Lord Brahma, and she said something to the Lord. And we hear that now in text 20. Srimati Vidyavali said, "Oh my Lord, you have created the entire universe for the enjoyment of your personal pastimes, but foolish, unintelligent men have claimed proprietorship for material enjoyment. Certainly they are shameless agnostics, falsely claiming proprietorship. They think they can give charity and enjoy such a condition. What good can they do for you? Who are the independent creator, maintainer, and annihilator of this universe?" So she's criticizing Bali Maharaj. He's thinking, she said, "Oh, by giving charity, I will be able to enjoy the world by piety, and by my increased piety, my ability to sustain being the king of heaven, and therefore I shall enjoy." And she is criticizing that. What is the basis of her criticism? Vidyavali says that it is not for his enjoyment, but for Brahman's enjoyment. Why wasn't Brahma insulted by it? He was the head of the universe. He was about to offer his well-considered prayers, and then this Mataji comes along. She starts speaking emotionally, criticizing her husband. If someone is disturbed in mind, then let them do whatever they have to do. So Brahma didn't mind. This was also shown when Nityananda Prabhu kicked Sivananda Sena, and Sivananda Sena's son became very disturbed and went to see Mahaprabhu directly. And he wasn't dressed properly, and Swarup Damodar pointed that out, but Mahaprabhu said, no, he's disturbed. So we should remember these very natural points of etiquette and respect for all living entities. So we will read this in this purport, if Krishna allows here. Purport. Palimat's wife was most intelligent, supported the arrest of her husband, and accused him of having no intelligence because he had claimed proprietorship of the property of the Lord. Such a claim is a sign of demoniac life. So we can see how much that fits us as well. What do we think is ours? What are we proud of? What are we fear of losing? Then, purport. Although the demigods were officials appointed by the Lord for management, are attached to materialistic enjoyment, they never claim to be proprietors of the universe, for they know that the actual proprietor of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the qualification of the demigods, but the demons, instead of accepting the exclusive proprietorship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, claim the property of the universe for themselves through demarcations of nationalism. This part is mine and this part is yours, they say. This part I can give in charity, and this part I can keep for my enjoyment. These are all demoniac conceptions. This is described in Bhagavad Gita 16:13. Idam madhyam ha labdam imam papsya manoratam. Thus I've acquired so much money and land. Now I have to add more and more. In this way, I shall be the greatest proprietor of everything. Who can compete with me? In this way, I shall be the greatest proprietor of everything. Who can compete with me? So these are all material conceptions. The demonic conceptions, right? Even if we think that we have a little piece of the universe that is ours, as long as we ourselves think the owner, this conceptualization is born out of false ego. It's born of illusion, and therefore it's demoniac. It is the mentality of someone who has turned his back to Krishna. So Bali Maharaj, wife accused Bali Maharaj by saying that although the Supreme Personality of Godhead had arrested him, showing him extraordinary mercy, and although Bali Maharaj offering his body to the Supreme Lord for the third step, he was still in darkness of ignorance. Actually, the body did not belong to him, but because of his long-standing demonic mentality, he could not understand this. He thought that since he had been defamed for his inability to fulfill his promise of charity, and since the body belonged to him, he would free himself from defamation by offering his body. Actually, the body does not belong to anyone but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whom the body is given. So that's also applicable to us. We think, my body, that this is all mine, that even the subtle body is not ours. They are all instruments Krishna gives us to use in his service. So we should not be too much attached to it. Just maintain attachment to maintain it nicely. And be ready to leave it behind. Surrender to Krishna at every moment. So, Ishvara Sarvabhutnam Rishayuna Tisati Brahmayam Sarvabhutani Yadrudari Maya. He is confirmed that the Lord is the controller and the proprietor. The Lord is situated in the core of everyone's heart. According to the material desires of the living entity, the Lord offers a particular type of machine, the body, through the agency of the material energy. The body actually does not belong to the living entity. It belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Under the circumstances, how could Bali claim that the body belonged to him? Thus, Vidyavali, Bali Maharaj's intelligent wife, prayed that her husband be released by the Lord's causeless mercy. Otherwise, Bali Maharaj was nothing but a shameless demon, specifically described as Tyaktariastvat Aropita Katri Vada, a foolish person claiming proprietorship over the property of the Supreme Person. The Srila Prabhupada is criticizing current leaders. Of course, we may agree with Srila Prabhupada, but even nowadays, the mass of people will not disagree with Srila Prabhupada's bold statements here. Because even on the level of the climate changes, there is certainly and obviously tremendous mismanagement that is threatening the world. The weather changes, the melting of the ice caps, the different species of life annihilated, the coronavirus, this is my land, the fighting, the killing of each other. Srila Prabhupada criticized the United States that you stole the land from the Red Indians. Then you say, if someone comes into the country, you cannot come, it's ours. But it's stolen property. Which country is not guilty of trying to possess stolen property? Every country in the world, it's a crime. Not only stealing is a crime, but also purchase stolen property or to claim the stolen property is your own. It's a crime, Srila Prabhupada says. So everyone is guilty, and even if we give the property back to the people that we stolen from, but they have also stolen. If any thinks the land is our land, if you come to take it, then we will kill you, everyone, because everything belongs to Krishna, and this is a type of mentality. And only if humanity develops Krishna consciousness can this mentality, which causes so much sectarianism, division and fight, be finished. Krishna consciousness is based on true knowledge. Everything belongs to Krishna. And that even us, me, I belong to Krishna. What to speak of this body, which I need to leave behind. At least theoretically, we could know that we belong to Krishna. Everyone and everything belongs to Krishna. From the moment I claim something as mine, there is duality. And that duality is described in the purport, this verse from the 11th canto. Vayam kvitiya binivesatasyat isatapatasya viparyosmiti. Tanmayato buddhapyatitsvam bhaktyaka samgurudeva tatma. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as a material body because of the absorption in the external energy, external illusory energy of the Lord. When the living entity turns from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. This is a bewildering, fearful condition which is affected by the potency of illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person should not engage unflinchingly in unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, whom he accepts as his worshipful deity, as his very life and soul. So as soon as we claim something as mine, immediately there is duality, a separation between us and Krishna, and immediately fears enter the heart. Fear of losing what is mine, fear of losing what can never be mine. So we continue reading the purport. Prabhupada writes, in the present age, Kali Yuga, The number of such shameless men who are agnostics, disbelieving in the existence of God, has increased, trying to defy the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So-called scientists, philosophers, and politicians manufacture plans and schemes for the destruction of the world. So yes, the reason why we are building all these bombs, these weapons, biological weapons, it's not for peace. They see it all for peace of the world, but it's not for peace. Continue. They cannot do anything good for the world, and unfortunately, because Kali Yuga, they have plunged the affairs of the world into mismanagement. Thus, there is a great need for the Krishna conscious movement for the benefit of innocent people who are being carried away by propaganda of such demons. If the present status quo is allowed to continue, people will certainly suffer more and more under the leadership of these demonic agnostics. So in essence, Vidyavali is said that it's actually good that he is punished because everything belongs to Krishna. One can only give what belongs to him in charity. Now, Brahma's prayers, the text 21. Now Brahma is speaking. Lord Brahma said, O well-wisher and master of all living entities, O worshipful deity of all demigods, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, now this man has been sufficiently punished, for you have taken everything. Now you can release him. He does not deserve to be punished more. Purport. When Lord Brahma saw that Prahlad Maharaj and Vidyavali had already approached the Lord to ask mercy for Bali Maharaj, he joined them and recommended Bali Maharaj's release on the grounds of worldly calculations. That's interesting. So he's already punished. He served his term, he's saying. Text 22. Bali Maharaj has already offered everything to your lordship. Without hesitation, he has offered his land, the planets, and whatever else he earned by his pious activities, including even his own body. So, although one could say that Bali Maharaj was in illusion, thinking himself the owner of the universe, he made a sincere attempt to offer everything to the Supreme Lord. So we see that balances both sides. It's like the offering of water of the Ganges to the Ganges. If we offer Krishna anything, it's at the same time a gesture, because everything belongs to him. That the Ganges water was already part of the Ganges, but it's a gesture. And that is the point Brahma is making. He has made a sincere gesture. Text 23, that by offering even water, newly grown grass, or flower buds at your lotus feet, those who maintain no mental duplicity can achieve the most exalted position within the spiritual world. This Bali Maharaj, without duplicity, has now offered everything in the three worlds. How then can we deserve to suffer from? How then can he deserve to suffer from arrest? So in the purpose of Prabhupada was the words Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam says the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so kind that even unsophisticated person with devotion and without duplicity offers at the lotus feet of the Lord a little water, a fruit, a flower, a leaf. The Lord accepts it. Then the devotee is promoted to Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. So Brahma drew the Lord's attention to this subject and request that he release Bali Maharaj, who was being bound by the ropes of Varuna, and who had already given everything, including the three worlds and whatever he possessed. So now in text 24, the Lord is replying to that. says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Lord Brahma, because of material opulence, a foolish person has become dull-witted and mad. Thus he has no respect for anyone within the three walls and defies even my authority. To such a person I show special favor by taking away all disposition. So what does dull-witted mean? Dull-witted means whose intelligence is not sharp, is dull. What does that have to do with material opulence? Pride comes as a result of material opulence. So people attached to material opulence, they become dull-witted. And in between, they become proud. What is the relationship between becoming dull-witted and becoming proud? Because they don't see that Krishna has given it to me and that Krishna can take it away. So what is there to be proud of? If someone gives you so much money, $1 billion, and it is a gift, and a gift only, suddenly you start thinking that I'm so wealthy, I'm better than others. It's not absurd. He could have given it to someone else as easy as he has given it to you. It has more to do with his kindness. So what is there to be proud of? But what wealth or any opulence tends to do with our consciousness, it makes us dull-witted and proud. It means we lose our respect, we lose our vision of reality, our perspective of reality. Therefore, someone who is sharp-witted, who is very intelligent, he becomes humble. Because he never thinks that he possesses anything. So you are the guardian of it for a short time. It has been placed in your charge, but it's not yours. If we extend our sense of I and me and place it into an object, then it becomes mine. This is an expansion of illusion. Srila Prabhupada said, if the Lord takes everything away, then that is the first installment of the Lord mercy, the first installment. By removing the cause of pride, and when the causes of pride is removed, then the pride is removed. The purport of 24. A civilization that has become godless because of material advancement in opulence is extremely dangerous. Because of great opulence, a materialist becomes so proud that he has no regard for anyone, even refuses refuses to accept the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The results of such mentality is certainly very dangerous. To show special mercy, the Lord sometimes makes an example of someone like Bali Maharaj, who was now bereft of all his opulences. That we will read from verse 25 till 28, the last verses for today. While rotating in the cycle of birth and death again and again in different species of life, because of his own fruitive activities, the dependent living entity, by good fortune, may happen to become a human being. This human birth is very rarely obtained. If a human being is born in an aristocratic family or a higher stage of life, if he performs wonderful activities, if he's useful, if he has personal beauty, a good education and good wealth, and if he's nonetheless not proud of his opulences, it's to be understood that he is especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although aristocratic birth and other opulences are impediments to advancement in devotional service because they are They are causes of false prestige and pride. These opulences never disturb a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pali Maharaj has become the most famous among the demons and non-believers, for in spite of being bereft of all material opulences, he is fixed in devotional service. So, whatever our abilities, we tend to take shelter of it. We think this is ours. We tend to become proud and in difficulty. We tend to take shelter of it. It means that going to it for protection in subtle and gross ways. If they are fearful, then the first thing they do is count how much money they have. And if the wealth and money is going to protect them, but a person loses everything and has no other shelter and just remains fixed and takes shelter in Krishna in devotional service, despite of having no opulence, then that is exalted. This is what we have to learn here. Lord Vamandev says that we can have so many items of wealth or opulence. Krishna gives it to us, places it under our care, but if we become proud of them and therefore take shelter of them, as opposed to taking shelter to Krishna, that's a great loss. If we lose everything else and we remain strongly fixed in Krishna's shelter, then that is called exalted in this world. He grasped the jewel that he will never lose. So Bali Maharaj did that. And what was Vamandev's conclusion? Was he foolish to offer everything? No, he's most exalted, because in spite of losing everything, he remained fixed in devotional service. Tomorrow we will continue with text 29. Now we will first look on the points made in the chat, then see if there are questions. Narsingha Maharaj writes, because of Bali's great tolerance, the Lord gave him a place not obtainable even by the demigods. That place, because it is protected by the Lord Vamandev, it's free from mental and bodily miseries, fatigue, dizziness, defeat, and all disturbances. So, these are certainly two good reasons why the planetary gods Sutal was better than the heavenly planets. There are more reasons that we will hear. Thank you for sharing that. Mother Hema Gopi, can you please help me to understand why Prahlad Maharaj was afraid of common man in this world? I think we explained that. Common man, materialistic man, are not afraid of Maya. That we should be afraid of association of non-devotees. Mother Anangamoini, please can you explain the meaning of repeating showing of that which has already been showed? Yeah, that's what we do every day, that we take breakfast and lunch, that we are enjoying always the same thing. And tomorrow we will do the same thing. That's what we do in this world, showing the truth. We did it before, we do it again, the same thing, again and again. Sex life, the same thing. And then one becomes attracted, and then ordinary people fall in this trap, do it again and again and again. The disease does not go away. Showing the truth. Ja, dat is Materna Krishna Pratos Vatavām Mitobi Bhatyeti Gravanam Anantaka Vishatam Tamasham Panaspana Sarvata Sarvanam. Prahlad Maharaj said it's because of their uncontrolled senses. They think that's the goal of life. They don't know that goal of life is to understand who we are, who Krishna is, and what our relationship is. So that's what ordinary people do. Sense gratification, they do it again and again and again. That they chewing the truth. It's the same experience. Eating tomorrow, today. Or hey, my gopi, say, can you kindly help me to understand how a pure devote like Bali Maharaj could become puffed up by material opulence? Yes, he was associating with demons. And he was trying to serve them and give them the enjoyment they wanted. And yes, influenced by demons, you can become illusioned very and although he was a devotee, it's by the overwhelming association, he started to think the universe is mine. That of course he was a devotee, but in some way we have all this. Because being influenced by the modes of nature, passion and ignorance, means you think this is for my enjoyment and this is mine. So everyone is influenced by that. But of course, Bali Maharaj knew also that everything belonged to the Supreme Lord. He knew that. But he felt attachment to his achievement, what Krishna had given him. And that was a problem. But that problem is now solved. So is there any other question? Please raise your hand. Yes, Anand Kaur Sundar Prabhu, speak.
I have some question related to the surrender aspect. We find in the case of Bali Maharaj that he knew that Vamandev is Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he surrendered everything. And Sukrachar, he knew that is stopping him from surrendering to the Supreme Lord. So he defied or overlooked the instruction of Sukrachar. But what happens for devotees like us, especially I'm talking about myself, that especially when we stay in the temple scenario, so initially we come with all good motives that whatever authorities will say, we'll just follow. But in due course of time, we also start finding certain defects in their instruction, etc. So then to exhibit that surrender in due course of time becomes very difficult. So then we start manipulating or finding some managerial way to uh, get our things done. So things like coming from morning program and the basic things are very clear, but following instructions becomes very hazy. So at that point of time, what should we understand to be surrender and not to be surrender?
If someone gives us instructions, their instructions are not perfect, and these persons are not perfect, and they have so many faults that, but it is our duty to follow their instructions, that not find fault with them. If we find fault with them, and we think we should not follow their instructions because things are not perfect, that's our foolishness. That we should try our best to follow these instructions. That and not seeing all these faults. If you see, everyone has faults. If you see fault in someone, then you are cultivating that fault in your own heart. Instead of seeing faults, one should see the good qualities of devotees, their spiritual qualities, and glorify them, and then you will develop them. It's not easy because Maya will force us to all these faults and all these ideas comes in your mind, but we should not identify with it. That's a trap of Maya. That's a summary of what I would answer on that. Anand Kaur Sunapam.
Maharaj, actually, it's not that we don't follow, but we try to manipulate. I'll give one example of truly speaking, say without telling any name. Like example, what happened is few years back, one of the devotees he wanted to do some sastric study, and he sent a request to the temple authorities. So it took 4 months for them to answer. By that time, that enthusiasm of the devotee for sastric study died out. So then what I did is I already enrolled, and just 3 4 days before the classes started, I sent a request because I knew it will take them time to answer. So because the things had started, so then one principle which I had in management is called management is it's easier to be forgiven than to be given. So then things are more allocated. So in one way, we don't totally not follow the instructions, but then the tendency to manipulate comes. So in that condition, there is certain guilt in the heart also that we are not following. At the same time, we know that there is a way to bypass things and get the things done. So in that case, what should we do?
Yes, that means we have to look in our own heart and see the impurities. So there is some duplicity there. We want to find our own way. We want to do things in our own way and get it confirmed later by the authorities. Yeah. But the situations will be there because we are also not pure in heart. If we would be pure devotees, then we would understand, it's just a study or not. I can always study. I have the morning program, so I can study. There's nobody that. But if we want to study, why do we want to study? Is it really to make spiritual advancement, or are there other reasons? Yes, these impurities in heart, they are there. And it's just important that we are honest with ourselves, that we have these impurities, and try to work on it. But that's all right. We are not yet pure devotees. And in the meantime, 2 more questions. Shouldn't Bali Maharaj's wife support Bali Maharaj in her role? Even Brahma is supporting Bali Maharaj. Instead, she seems to say he's shameless for claiming proprietorship. Please comment. Well, Vidyavali was disturbed in mind. That's first thing. And what was on her mind came out. But we have seen before when Bali Maharaj was washing the feet of Vamandev, she brought all the paraphernalia and she was assisting him very humbly. And she's disturbed, but she's clearly a devotee. And what she's saying really is that yes, he was foolish to do that, yes. So please forgive him. She was supporting Bala Maharaj in that sense. Her intention was good, but she was disturbed in mind. So sometimes we have that also. We see something disturbed in mind and we start to criticize that person. But we see only externally what's going on. The internal intention we don't see. And yes, I experienced that myself many times in relationships. That they see the external and they have a certain vision of what's going on, and that's their reality, but it's not like that. So Nadia Bihari Prabhu, does that help?
Yes, Maharaj, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then Maharaj will write, how can we develop the determination like Bali Maharaj? This kind of questions we should pose. That's very nice. We see the qualities of Bali Maharaj and then this important quality of Stita Prajna, determination. How can I develop it? How can I get that quality? That the first thing I would say is hear about those who have their qualities, that did quality. Bali Maharaj has this quality, and due to this quality, he had the determination to go to everything. And what was the result? What will he get? We will hear during the next verses tomorrow. And it's so wonderful. If you see the results of Bali Maharaj's determination. But it requires determination. It's like, this Narada Muni said to Lord Krishna, what did you do with these Pandavas? Did you hypnotize them? Yes, you let them suffer so much and their love are increasing for you. Their determination to serve is increasing. So we can learn from this. So hearing of these great devotees and also look in our own movement that are many Prabhupada disciples serving the mission for more than 50 years without any interruption. That is great determination. And that makes them great. That you have devotees who have been defamed, who have gone through great difficulties in our movement, but still they never gave up. They continued serving the mission. And that is greatness. That by hearing of them, hearing about them and observing them, and by staying with them, we can learn this. Can pray to the Lord during this fast, and please let me develop this determination like Bali Maharaj. Thank you for that question. So we are at the end of today's session. Tomorrow we will continue because we have still 2 chapters to do, and we have 2 days left. But tomorrow, the next chapter is a short chapter. So we will finish this chapter first, and then we have chapter 23. It will be all right. And then the last day, we discuss the pastime of Matsya Avatar. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.